and welcome to School of Dàimh Homeschooling. If you're looking to improve your session skills, learn some tunes and a Gaelic song, then you've come to the right place. Here's how these lessons are going to work. First of all, you'll hear the guys playing through a tune, and then either Angus, Alistair or Gabe will teach it to you. Then we'll hand over to either Ross or Yogi, who'll take you through the chords. Following that, everyone will play all together at full speed. Finally, you'll hear the melody without the accompaniment so that the chord players have a chance to try out some of their own variations. You can pause this video at any time and you can skip through any of the boring bits, like this intro for example. Now, 3 things to remember. I hope you're paying attention. Have a great time. Play like no one is listening, and most importantly, like and subscribe. So, let's dive right in. Here is Gabe and Ross teaching Camanachd Ghlaschu, aka Gillean Maroon, by Màiri Mhòr and Òran.
1, 2, 3, 4. Let's have a look at Gillean then. So just before we get stuck into this, I feel I should explain that if this tune sounds a little bit wonky or lopsided to you, don't worry, that's because it is. What it does have 32 bars from start to finish with the parts repeated, which these jigs are supposed to. So it does sort itself out, but rather than both parts being 8 bars repeated, the first part is 6 bars repeated and the second part is 10 bars repeated. So that might make no difference to you at all. Maybe you're totally fine with that. It works melodically and it has the right amount of bars and it's all good. But if you're like me and you're a little bit anal and easily confused and you're wondering what's going on here, that's what's going on. So, but it does sort itself out. It's all good in the end. Okay, so the first part is 6 bars, so it's 3 phrases is the way we look at that. So the first phrase starts on B, it's so that's 2 bars of 6/8, so the first bar of that is once more, and the second bar is just D's and E's. So that whole first phrase is and then the second phrase is so the first half of that second phrase of the first bar is once more. And then the second half of that second phrase is where you can play a roll instead of the 3 B's if you like. So that whole second phrase is and then the last phrase is just like the first phrase again, apart from it finishes on a D instead of an E. So it's once more. So let's have a wee crack at that whole first part then. After 4, so 1, 2, 3, 4. have a look at the B part then. So that A part was 3 phrases repeated, and this B part is going to be 5 phrases repeated. So the first phrase and the second part, the first 2 bars are so the first half of that, so the very first bar in that second part is, so it's just a bunch of D's with an F in the middle, and then the second bar there is, once more, so that whole first phrase is, one more time. And then the second phrase, or the next 2 bars, are, so the first half of that, or the first bar in that phrase is, or once more you could use the roll instead of the 3 B's at the start of that bar, so, and then the second bar, second half of that phrase is, once more. So that whole second phrase is, and then the whole rest of this B part is just the A part again, apart from the very last note, which is an A instead of a D. So the whole rest of the B part is just basically the A part again. So let's have a wee crack at that whole B part. So Gillean B part after 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4.
So, some chords for Gillean Mhòr. Now, hopefully you'll have watched Gabe's bit of the video and picked up as much of the tune as you can, whatever instrument you're playing, even if you're just here for the chords. I'd really recommend trying to get the bones of the tune, as it were. That's where the information is that we need to decide what chords we're going to play. So we're in D major, so the chords are D, G and A. All the notes in the scale are in the tune are within that scale, the D major scale. All the notes are in those 3 chords. So that's what we're going to look for. And I think the easiest way to describe how this is going, it's quite confusing, this tune, the way it gets played. There's a lot of repetition. So it's from a song. So in the song, the chorus is, that's the chorus. And then the verses, and then chorus again. So, have a listen to that, to the tune with us playing at the beginning, or Gabe playing it, and get that first chorus thing in your head. Because how it's played as a jig is the chorus repeats for the first part, so it's chorus, chorus, and then the verse is very short. So there's a chorus added onto that. And then that whole thing repeats for the second part. So it's verse again. You get the idea. So the format, if you want to think of it this way, the format of the tune is the first part is chorus, chorus. The second part is verse, chorus, verse, chorus. And then that leads you back to chorus, chorus. So it's like you've got 3 choruses backing up in a row there. It sounds more complicated than it is, or it's not as complicated as it sounds, however you want to look at it. So we're just going to make a template chord chart for this out of just D, G and A, the 3 major chords. That's all it needs to start off with, and we can look at some substitutions later on. So we'll start off by looking at the chorus. So it's got that B's the kind of the downbeat there. So the B, as you might have noticed, isn't in the chord of G. So we're actually not starting with the D chord, which is always a bit of fun. So we've got the D and the B together. Suggests a strong G chord for me. So, and then that next downbeat is the A note, so we can play an A chord there, and then resolve it to the D there. So we've got G and A and D, and then the next little section is, so we've got the F to the D there, so that's all within that D chord, and then that B is giving us another G again, and the E gives us the A. So we've got, and then back to that little refrain, as it were, at the beginning. So G, A and D. So just to go over that, we've got, this is the chorus, which is the first part. A, D, and then D, stay in the D. G and A, and then G and A and D. And then of course that repeats. G, A and D, and D, G and A, and G, A and D. So that's our first part. Think of it as chorus, chorus. That's the A part. So let's have a play around that with Gabe. So G, A and D. D, stay in the D. G, A, G, A and D. So this is our chorus. So that repeats. D, A and D. G, A and D, and A and D. So every A part is traditionally followed by the B part, and in this the B part is the verse, just a little bit, which constitutes the verse in the song, and then the whole chorus, which we've already got chords for the chorus, so we're just going to stick to that for our template. So the verse section is, and that's it, just that little bit. So we've got, sticking with just the major chords, we've got, it's all in our D chord there, and then we've got the E to the C sharp, and the E and the C sharp together gives us an A, really, nothing else for it. So, and then back to our B, so back to the G there, resolve it back to the D, because then it's immediately followed by the chorus chords, which we just did. The first part, G, A and D, D and D and A and G and A and D. So then that whole thing repeats. We've got the verse section, and then the chorus chords. So second part, think of it as verse, chorus, verse, chorus. That's the whole B part. So just one more time, we'll go through that slowly, and then we'll play that through with Gabe. So we've got D, A, G, D, and the chorus chords, G and A and D, and D, G, A, G, A and D, and then we repeat that whole part. So starting with the verse bit again. Something like that. Then the chorus chord. and that plays through. So let's play that B part with Gabe. Hopefully that's all starting to make sense. And then after we've played through that, I'll come back and I'll talk a little bit about variations, how we can swap some of these chords around, and because it's going to be played 3 times through at the end, so obviously we want to come up with some different things for it to break it up. So here's the second part with Gabe.
B part after 4, so 1, 2, 3, 4.
E, A, G, A and D, and then the chorus again. A and D, G and A, G, A and D. So it repeats. So the verse. A and D. Chorus. And then, of course, that would go back into the chorus, the A part, and we'll play the whole tune 3 times at the end. So we've had a good look at the first 2 parts, the only 2 parts, you might say. The only couple of things I'm going to say, just rhythm-wise, we didn't come across, we're playing it slow there, but you'll hear it when we play it together at the end. It's great that hitting that dicky-did, you know, it's very much following the tune, so instead of like looking for the beat or looking for the bar, so I'm going, to try and, accentuate those little things all the way through the tune when those things happen. You're not looking to count and land on the thing, you're looking to land where the tune lands. So that's something to listen out for, something to try and get in that. That'll help a lot. That just makes it sound a lot more jiggy, a lot more musical, I suppose. And the other thing is just some substitutions. Now we can stick with that template and just start swapping chords around, or you can try something completely different on your own. I'll come back to that in a second, but one of the things, just to make it, because there's a lot of repetition, especially in that chorus phrase, keeps coming again and again and again. So one of the things we can do is, and then this D here, we can just do a straight swap for its relative minor, the B minor. And in fact, that B note, we're already on a B minor, so we can drop the G. So the first part we could go, so, and when we play together in the big session video at the end, I'm going to do that the 3rd time round the tune in the A part, the repeat and the first time round it, 3rd time round the tune. If you follow that, have a listen. It should be quite obvious in the video. And then another thing in the B part, what I'm going to do the 2nd time round the tune, the whole tune, is I'm going to do another D to B minor swap at the beginning. So that first D, I'm going to swap for the B minor. And that just gives it a bit of variation, but there's lots of other things you could do. So just for our chord chart for the session at the end, because that's what I'm going to be playing, 2nd time around the tune, in the B part, I'm going to swap the D for the B minor at the beginning. And then the 3rd time around the tune, in the A part, I'm going to swap, put the B minor there in the middle of the part. And that's just a straight like for like swap, as it were. I mean, there's lots of other things you can do. What I'd recommend you do actually is, as always, there's going to be 2 videos at the end, one without any chords at all, just the melody. So that's for you to try some ideas on, because a tune like this, there's loads of different things you can do. I'd recommend just playing through one time with it, just in D, just hold the D chord all the way through, and that way you'll hear where you might want some chords to be, rather than starting loads of chords. Start with one, and it'll become obvious if it's not working. And if you play the wrong chord, if you're in a D major key and you play any of those chords, you know, eventually it'll become the right chord if you hold it long enough. That's a good trick in a session. Just stick with it until it becomes the right chord, and then it looks like you had it planned all along. I mean, there's other wee bits, I think, in the video with Gabe at the beginning. I came up with a new idea, which I'd never done before with this tune, but you can go that B at the start, could be E minor, and then the A gives you a D. So you've got the G at the end instead of the D, and then you can go, you know. Loads of things you can do, different runs, different things, or just try playing a D and see how far that gets you. Probably pretty far. So just try lots of things, try some rhythms, try some chords. That's why that video's there at the end with no chords in it at all, for you to just have freedom to just give it a bash. So that's why you should sit down and learn as many of the notes as you can, and then figure out what notes those chords are in, or what notes are in what chords, however you want to say it. People say that sentence differently, and just go for it and have fun.